Hey everybody, welcome to the Epitome of Salt, where we will be going over a sunset show of the Wilds and Eldrain format. I got my friend Nate here,
What's up, everybody?
and we're just gonna be going over what we thought, what happened, how it went, like what we liked, it didn't like, format, and we'll just be going through a list of segments here. And we're gonna be starting off with a nice crack a pack. So let's do it.
See what we get.
And then right off the bat, we see that we have some other stuff going on. But we have a Frostbridge Guard. It was a 2/2 for 2. You could pay 2 and a white to and tap it to tap a creature.
It's a bear with marginal upside. It's okay.
Yeah, when I saw this, I didn't really think much of it, but it ended up being like pretty decent. And
Yeah.
then much better than on our next card here, Skybeast Tracker.
Oh no. It has nice art.
It has nice art, yeah. Sleight of Hand. The more blue decks I played, the more I liked Sleight of Hand. Now, whether or not I should take Sleight of Hand I probably should take a Frostbridge Guard over it, but I just love the card.
I agree. You should take Frostbridge Guard over Sleight of Hand, but I am always a cantrip fan.
Yeah, and then there is of course Charm Clothier.
How
How could this card be so bad? Like it. What did we give this card? What did we give this card in our set review?
we didn't rate it very highly, I don't think.
Charm Clothier. Oh yeah, I guess not. So yeah, in Modern Magic, a 5-mana 3/3 flying with marginal upside just isn't good enough.
Especially when that marginal upside requires another creature.
Yeah,
It's not good enough.
But speaking of cards that were good enough, into the fake court, the juicer of the blue decks. Man, this card.
Man.
You had like 2 of these, dude, and you draw your deck.
This card grew on me so much as just like this is the only thing you want at like 5 mana in a lot of the blue decks in this format. And it just kept growing and growing and growing on me.
Yeah, it's like a curve topper.
Yeah.
And then there's Route Out, which is the basically complete opposite effect.
But still was very solid in a format where X1s were everywhere.
And then we have Troublemaker Oof, which is another bear that sometimes, whenever you're trying to do something cool, your opponent has it, and whenever you're trying to do anything, it sucks.
I don't know. It's a bear and it's marginal upside. Like I put it around the same rating as Frostbridge Guard. Maybe a little bit higher because some of the like bonus sheet enchantments or crazy stuff that you could just exile, it didn't get rid of. Like exiling your opponent's hatching plans just feels good.
I know. Yeah, that was, unless you're me, because I'm always the one with the hatching plans.
Yep.
And then we have another equipment that doesn't say for Mirrodin. So what are you taking from this pack? Just the comments.
Out of the commons, the common I want the most in my deck is Into the Fake Court.
But are you starting in blue?
I'm not against starting in blue. I mean, if the best card is blue, I'm taking a blue card. Like I'm not afraid of blue. Weirdly, the color we've been most afraid of playing in this format has been green.
So spoiler alert, we liked blue. Here's some of our data. Hold on, let's see if I can do something about this ad. Sorry, pardon me. Yeah, perfect. We liked blue. So our highest win rate was blue red or black red. So we liked the aggro deck. We played a lot of it, and it was good always.
Yep.
But then if you look, our next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 archetypes
We're all blue.
We fucked with blue. Blue was our thing this format. Oops. But and that's like a really interesting comment on the meta. Is I really think blue was a color people didn't want to be in.
Yeah, I mean that was it was our anti-meta position, but it was most effective for us because it was an anti-meta position, because so many people didn't want to draft blue. It was open so often that, well, yeah, it's not the deepest color when it's open every draft. The pure, like, good blue makes some really solid decks. And then when the meta shifted to be slower and more control-y later in the format, it just got better and better and better.
Yeah, because especially you needed to know what blue was right.
Yeah.
Because some of the blue was just garbage.
Terrible.
And that especially goes for, even though these all look like blue-white, these were all blue-white X decks.
Yes.
Like these 4. And so you really needed to know what blue was important and what blue was just a trap. So, For example, any card that just said tap creature do something, unless
it's literally named Hilda.
yeah, or maybe Sheree, like if you need a 4-drop, then
Yeah.
don't put it in your
Even
deck.
Vantress Transmuter was sometimes playable, but it's not something you're excited
I would
about
put
playing.
that very stoutly in the realm of begrudgingly playable.
Exactly.
And we can see too what the 17 lands did. It's like Vantress Transmuter,
Solid
D,
D.
which is exactly
Yeah.
what a begrudgingly playable is.
Indeed.
Is you don't want it, but you got it, and then
Yep.
So yeah, for us into the fake court, and then moving on to the uncommons, we got Emberth Veteran.
Just really good.
It's like so you know how
so nice.
you know how we had all those decks that were blue. You know, there was one deck on top that wasn't blue,
It
man.
wasn't blue.
And let's say this deck had a lot of Emberth Veterans in it.
It did.
It
did.
And you'd run as many as you could get your
Pretty much.
little
It's
mids
a
on.
1-mana 2/1 with significant upside. Like a young hero role is very significant upside in this format, so it's just always good.
Yeah, and we might have to. This might get an honorary award later in the format for blinking removal of the people who were weren't necessarily paying attention.
Yep.
And then Tenacious Tome Seeker. Honestly, this one came down for me throughout the format. Like I initially loved it and thought it was like one of the best blue cards,
Mhm.
but it was just kind of clunky and hard to use sometimes. Like it wasn't bad, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a card that let me put it this way. If I could get a Tenacious Tongue Seeker on the wheel, I was really happy.
Yeah.
And I was happy to put it in my deck. But it wasn't a card I wanted to take super highly just because while having the extra bargain effect is useful, usually you're wanting to use bargains on different things.
Yeah.
And a lot of the spells that you're returning to your hand are bargain spells, say Kellen's Light Blades or Candy Grapple or Ice Out, and you want to be using your bargain fodder for those instead of this, if you can.
Yeah, and that sums it up perfectly. Is there was just the blue that you wanted to be playing was doing bargain like Johan Stopgap, Ice Out, or like the MVPs in that category.
Yep.
And you know it's kind of weird if you're trying to get them back with your Tenacious Tome because then also they know. So it just I don't know. Card was still good. Like it still had a spot in my deck if I wheeled it, but I didn't really want to ever find myself first picking it because it wasn't what's important.
I still like it. I don't think I like it as much as I like something like an Emperor Veteran, though.
How much do you like Galvanic Giant?
That's funny.
It has an adventure.
It
Which
does.
is one of the key mechanics of the set. You can pay 7 mana to draw 4 cards and then discard 2.
No.
And that's it.
No.
So you can pay 7 mana to get less cards than you would get from 1 into the fake court.
I wanted this card to be good. If this format was kind of what we were thinking it was going to be in a nice, like, not even necessarily nice, but just like a slower, more grindy format.
Like a tectonic plate level format.
Yeah. Then, okay, I can get down with this. But this format was way too fast for this to be good. It does have nice art. I'll give it that.
It does. It's a format of 3/3, which is never a good start.
Hill Giants in Modern Magic is just not.
And then we have our 2. We actually opened 2 bonus sheet cards, one in foil, one in normal. The first of which is Raid Bombardment. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, Raid Bombardment deals 1 damage to that player, planeswalker, that creature's attacking. For 3 mana.
I love this card as a meme.
Was it a good card?
No.
Why wasn't it a good card?
Because it was a 3-mana do-nothing enchantment.
And
You needed so much other stuff to make it work. I really, in my dreams was like this Raid Bombardment rat deck. But when Goblin Bombardment exists in a format, Raid Bombardment is just far and away.
Yeah, you stole my joke. This is the card I always got confused with Goblin Bombardment. So I probably passed some Goblin Bombardments. Just for the record, Raid Bombardment. Let's look at Raid Bombardment. Raid Bombardment is this card right
Solid
here.
F.
Is a solid F, and then Goblin Bombardment, which in my defense looks very similar, is all the way up here in A+ tier.
And is bar none, for me, the best card of the entire format.
I think it was. I think people would say Grufter. I literally think
I straight up think Goblin Bombardment.
this was my to spoil one of my words. This was my groan test award. My opponent played a Goblin Bombardment. I was like, "Are you kidding?"
And
dude?
every time we played this against our opponents, it was disgusting.
And and like I I feel like we played 10 games with this card, I feel like won 9 of them.
Yeah.
It's like a
Ridiculous.
It was just unreal, that card.
Yeah.
And then Season of Growth, 1 and a green. Whenever a creature returns to the battlefield under your control, scry 1. It doesn't make a creature.
Nope.
So was it good? It was 2 mana, do nothing.
It was a 2 mana enchantment that does nothing by itself, which is better than 3 mana do nothing by itself. It's what I'd like to call a fun build around card that's not actually very good.
I don't think I ever cast this.
I think we cast this once or twice between the two of us.
Well, maybe
It
you
was
did.
fine.
I don't remember putting this in my deck on purpose.
If I did, I put it in a meme deck built around playing like Titanic Growth and Leaping Ambushes and just things that would target my creatures for fun. Not that it's good, because it's not. You should not take it.
So the End is an expensive removal spell that exiles anything, and it just, you get to look at their hand.
And their entire library.
You get to look at the
Which
library, but
sometimes is relevant.
sometimes, usually it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Unless you just roll your eyes and like, oh no, this is my fate.
I have seen someone cast the End against me and then immediately concede, which was hilarious after they saw my deck.
I think this card was good.
It really good. Not great. It's just a little expensive for this format, but really strong.
It was good enough to be my pick one back.
I think it's the End over Embereth Veteran is probably my second choice here.
Yeah, I think there's a world where you could pick Ember Veteran. It's the red is the deepest color. Just pick it and move on.
It's the old principle of just take the cheaper card
Yeah.
if things are close. That's the argument for that. I could see going either way.
Yeah, that's true. But the slow dirtily player is always like, okay, I'm gonna pick the end and I'm gonna wheel the end of the fake word, and then
Yep.
I've got blue black like cooking already. I'm cooking it up.
Yep.
But and that's like what we did do.
In like the middle of this meta, we were
Quite a lot.
We were a lot like heavy fairies players, and we had a lot of success with the aggressive fairies deck.
Oh man, that was one of our bangers. Like, let's see if we can pull that back. That one up right here. I think it was this one. No, that was a good one.
No.
I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm gonna get lost. Oh well, we had a deck with two. Spoiler: we had a deck with two, 1 mana 3/3s. What are those things?
The Sleeper's Fairy?
Yeah, we had 2 of those things. It was good. Turns out.
Did we have 2 decks with 2 Sleeper's Fairies? The blue-red tempo deck and the blue-black aggro fairy deck?
I don't know. I remember we also had the
might have.
1/3 in there, and it was just gross.
Yeah.
But
But when you get those rares, yeah, your deck is really, really strong.
and this gives us a nice pivot into our next segment, which is making fun of our rate. Actually, I kind of want to do our awards first. I feel like
Sure.
that'll be more fun, and we
Yeah.
can kind of like weave in. We can weave in some of our like making fun of our ratings as we like give our little awards. So
because we have made a lot of ratings that were egregious, both of us,
yeah,
in our initial set review of them.
and
Oh boy!
and like and it's fun because like sometimes I'm like really proud of myself, like wow, like I really did see like, okay, like I see why this product card isn't gonna work, and I was right. And then there are other times where I was like, man, I didn't like. Okay, let's talk about one, for example, because there's one that's just in my head, and we were both on the same page about this. Where are you, Mr. Griffin?
Dutiful Griffin?
Mr. Dutiful Griffin.
Yeah, right
Right here. 5 mana 4/4 flying.
With recursion.
With recursion. Like, oh, how the mighty have fallen. I
Yeah.
cannot believe this card is so bad.
It's just embarrassing in the format of this format was just a huge lesson. Like, yeah, it's a D tier card. And a card that, we played once or twice to some success, but only because we had no other finishers. We had no other way to win the game. So we weren't happily playing it, which is why it's in D tier.
It's according to this data, this card is just as good as Plunge into Winter.
Which is embarrassing.
Yeah, which is just sad. Like,
Yeah.
that is
And
unbelievable.
Protective Parents, which for me is just really bad.
This is another card I was really surprised by because it's like a you're paying about rate for a, you're getting like a 3/2 that makes a thing. Like, usually that's pretty good, but it just turned out the thing it was making was not.
Was not enough value
Was
because
not
it's a
good.
death trigger.
Yeah, it just didn't get over the line. And like,
Yeah.
oh, Knight of Dust.
Oh,
And Stroke of
Knight of
Midnight. All of these cards I feel got like a B or better for me. I think we gave this like an
We
A or
gave
an A
Stroke of
minus.
Midnight a really high grade because we were drinking the Commander Kool-Aid. But
Yeah.
yeah, in Limited, just wrong. In Commander, it's better Beast Within and White, so it makes sense. But for Limited, no.
Yeah, limited, just especially when this was the set where cardboard mattered.
Yeah.
Like the more cardboard squares you had on your side, the more cardboard rectangles you had.
Yeah.
The better you were off you were.
The more literally anything, even giving your opponent a 1/1 creature token, which in
token.
theory does nothing, gives them bargain fodder. It gives them value in exchange for your strongest permanent, which you just don't want to do.
Yeah, which gives them like a Hamlet button.
Yeah.
Which is I heard about a really interesting paradigm relating to bargain. It's essentially what you're doing is you're converting any artifact or token into like a treasure token.
Mm-hmm.
Is the way the card works. It's because usually the unbargain thing is like too expensive. You don't want to play that card.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The example I was using is Johann
Stopgap.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was going with that. Stopgap. There we go. I can stop.
C+.
It's C+, but it's like I think this card actually played pretty decent, but
Yeah, I think it played very well in the right deck.
But for 4 mana, return target non-land permanent as sorcery speed, draw a card. I want to be paying like 3 mana for that.
Yeah.
But
At
then,
3 mana, I'm happy. At 4 mana, that's really a lot.
But then what if you get to cast this for 2 mana?
Now that's something I'm interested in.
Exactly, and like that's what's so good. And so you're thinking like, okay, like what if I make my food token into a treasure token? That's like really good.
Or what if my food token is 2 mana in the case of Stopgap or the Hamlet Blood? Yeah.
And that's really good.
Heaven forbid you have a Hatching Plans and Johann Stopgap turns into 2 mana, bounce a creature, draw 4.
Oh,
which
man.
is the dream.
I think we just have to move into, before we spoil all our awards, I think we have to move in and go over our first award, which has to be, what was your pet card of the format?
My good one or my bad one?
Yes.
My bad pet card for the format was Chancellor of Tales.
Oh, man. Oh, we both gave that, I believe, an A.
A minus. Mm-hmm.
Womp womp.
I really wanted this card to be good because I think Doubling Adventures is such a cool effect, but actually it was just too slow.
And
plain and simple.
It wasn't like adventures were bad either.
No.
It's just like most of the adventures didn't really play that well with doubling.
They also came down before this. Even like a Ratcatcher training, you wanted to be doing that before you cast Chancellor.
Exactly. Yeah. True. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's just wrong format for this. The wrong adventure spells. Honestly, like
yeah,
it was so hard to get this thing to work, and I agree. It was very sad, but I quickly jumped up the bandwagon, and you just kept believing in it. It kept dying to cut it. Okay. Wait. And then what was your good pet card?
I mean, I know you're higher on Hatching Plans than I am, but Hatching Plans is my good pet card for the format. Seriously, I just adore Hatching Plans so much. If you can get 4 ways to bargain or destroy this thing consistently, it's just so good.
And when he says that he's like, I was higher on Hatching Plans than he was, he's not lying. I was trying to splash this thing.
Consistently.
I'd be like, okay, we're in black-red aggro. Time to splash a Hatching Plans or 2.
Yeah.
We got 3 bargain sources. That's okay. We can splash in the Hatching Plans.
That's enough. 2 bargain sources, we'll be fine. Throw in a Hatching Plan.
It's just such a blowout if you manage to draw the cards off of this thing.
Yeah.
And you get the free tempo. So it's like if you think of bargain as giving you like a card or 2 back, this is you essentially just play it for free. You basically just draw 3 for free.
Yeah.
If you can hit the combo, and that's just...
And 17 lands says needs 5 or more bargain cards. I'm gonna argue you only really need 4 consistently to play 1.
It depends on how much draw you have.
That's true.
And like how soon you need to cast.
For our blue decks, you really only needed 4 or so because we were getting 2 into the fake ports consistently, so we had other card draw to help.
Yeah, that was the thing, is we'd have 2 into the fake ports, and then we'd eventually draw into like our Johans or whatever, and
yeah.
But then like literally you could have a curve where like you had everything was like 1, 2, or 3 mana, and then like a Hatching Plans and 2 into the fake ports, and you could outvalue people.
You destroy people with that.
Like you would just bury them in value. It was crazy to me how much. And it was just always like you could always like get things back if you needed them. And that was the crazy thing about like the alchemist. That little alchemist guy came up a lot for me.
Aquatic Alchemist? Yeah.
Yeah, like I thought this guy was really bad, but it just turned out
Oh,
like
no.
you get out there, you get him kind of beating people up a little bit.
This is my favorite 14th pick of the format. I cannot tell you how many
14th
14th pick
pick
Aquatic Alchemists I got this format, and they went directly into my deck and were quite playable. I was really happy about it. Because it doesn't look like much. It looks like it's so bad, but a 2-mana 1/3 that attacks as a 3/3 if you have enough instants and sorceries in your deck, which if you're playing the right deck, you do, and has a little bit of value of getting instants and sorceries you need back without requiring bargain fodder, actually played pretty decently.
And it was always the most like just almost rude in a sense when like you'd be like a little out on board or like slightly out on board, like you'd usually have like 1/3/3 in the air or some 3/4 whatever, some flying like mid-sized creature, and then you just have time and you're like, oh, I don't want to make it. It's like I'm now at the point of the game where I'm not worried about losing on board. I'm worried about them having like gruff triplets or something or evidence recruiter.
Yep.
So you would just get back your ice out.
Yeah.
And then be like, okay, I have ice out of my hand now.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Like, you draw it in the late game, and it becomes, am I winning on board? Okay, I put ice out on top of my deck. You have one turn to cast your big thing. Otherwise, you're never going to get to cast it, and I'm just going to slowly win the game.
Yeah, and that was the best. That was, like, really the rewarding part, because people thought blue was so bad. You just got to sit there and choke the life out of them slowly, turn after turn by turn, just chipping away.
We did so much just choking the life out of opponents who just didn't believe in blue. And it was really vindicating in a sense because we were, like, blue was so open in so many of our drafts that we were playing blue from pretty early on in the format and having success with it.
Yeah, and then it ended up being, like, kind of vindicated at Worlds because on the second day of Worlds, 2 of the 3 trophy decks were blue-white controlled. And that really, like, that also helped us, I think, because it showed us, like, what is the important stuff in blue. It turned out to be, like, you want 2 ice outs, 2 into the fake courts, and then some stop gaps.
Yeah.
And then
look at these C+ cards that are actually, like, what the base is for a blue-white control deck.
And it wasn't, like, and just because we say those are the important things, and it's also because you just got past a bunch of just stuff that should not get past. Like, the amount of times we got, like, a pick 3, pick 4 in Genius Prodigy.
Yeah.
Should not. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's a ridiculous value engine. The amount of times we got past...
Or, like, Extraordinary Journey.
Yeah, some ridiculously late... We got, like, a 6-pick Sleep Curse Fairy more than once. And I'm just like, what are you doing, rest of the draft table? This card is ridiculous.
Yeah, man. I didn't see too many Horned Lock Whale, but I saw enough. I loved this card. I love this guy. The amount of times though that it would be like, oh, the creature's not attacking, I can't bounce it. It's like, darn it.
Yep.
Speaking of which, I wanted to set up an award. We call it the Necrosquito Award. That's because our wonderful friend Josh beat me famously in a sealed day 1 of the draft with a Necrosquito, which, if we remember Necrosquito, it was like probably like it was a 4-mana 2/2 that when a creature died, it gained a counter in black in 1, which black was like the worst color. So it was like one of the
it was 4 mana in 1, which was
the
worst format for things that cost
this
more
card
than
was
3
good.
mana.
But Josh beat me with Necrosquito. And
more
so
than once.
for the rest of the format, no matter how much I beat him, and every time I give him my advice, I would say, well, Josh, you really should pick this over this. He's like, well, what do you know? You think Necrosquito is bad. And I'm like, it is bad. And he's like, well, I beat you with Necrosquito. I'd be like, okay, like, you got me there. Yep. What is the worst card that you lost to? For me, the worst card I lost to was Bestial Bloodlines.
Yeah, I think Bestial Bloodline is...
That's
Bestial
my
Bloodline is
Necrosquito
very
award.
high on my...
Like, we
nicest
maybe
award.
Refresh your memory. Did I ever beat you with the Phyrexian Lever? I threw that game.
No, you threw that game.
Because I have also lost a land tax, but I mean, I can see that card like...
I don't think land tax...
That card is like, it's not the same, it's like, it's so just egregiously... Where is Bestial Bloodline? But it's probably not an F tier, it's probably like a D- or something. D+. Wow. I disagree.
I was also thinking Beanstalk Worm was up there for me
I had a deck with 6 Beanstalk Worms.
Nice.
It was not very good. It didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
It ramped into like 1, and it had 2 up to beans. I don't know, it just didn't work.
Yeah. Because for a while there, and we'll talk more about this card later, but when the format first came out, it was Skewer Slinger that I was so frustrated that I lost to, and then later on, we'll get to it. Like 17 lands has it in D plus.
This could also be argued to be like one of my pet cards.
Yeah.
Because I saw this. I don't remember who. I think I was watching the Ham TV, and he told me that he said from his personal data, and he played a lot of red aggro in addition to a lot of blue-red spells.
Yeah.
He said in his personal data this card has like an 85% win rate.
Mm-hmm. Which
is
is
like it was like its highest win rate red common.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's insane. And then I thought, okay, well, I was in this blue-red pile, and I thought I'll just draft it. Like I need something to put down the board. And then I had like two of them sometimes, and then like they would attack with their 3/3, and then I would double block and flick a coin.
And it'd die.
And it'd die. Or like they would just attack with their monstrosity, expecting to trade.
Oh no.
And then it wouldn't.
Yeah, the amount of times my opponents didn't know about this trigger and got blown out really badly because of this trigger was very high in this format.
Or like, for example, what's crazy about this is like if you had like one of them, it trades with a 2/2 flying. It blocks like a 2/2 flying.
Yeah.
Or if you have two of them, it trades favorably with like a 3/3 flying.
Which is ridiculous.
Or actually, you could even kill a 4/3 with a 3/4 flying with two of them.
Yeah, and you can kill an Elvira's Attendants
with two
of them, which is insane.
And so this card, in aggro, it was terrible. It was not where you wanted to be. It was bad.
17 lands is good if you happen to have a red defensive deck. We had a significant amount of red defensive decks.
Yeah, like going back to
that was available
significantly
often.
We played a lot of defensive red decks, and those defensive red decks had a lot of Skewer Slingers.
They benefited greatly from having 3-4 Skewer Slingers, and it certainly helps that you could get them late. So, this was our playset of Ratcatcher Trainee, playset of Frantic Firebolt deck.
Oh, we had 5 Frantic Firebolts.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We killed people with just those 2 cards, basically.
This was a very this is like a, I don't know, this one's a little weird because it doesn't have any of the whatchamacallits in it. But yeah, just like a lot of this like weird little like these little like cantrippy effects, like Frantic Firebolt, like a coin, all these instants worked really well with just a little like guy, and at the end of the day, he's just like a 1/3, so like you can just throw him out there, and you're not really too concerned. It's like they use removal or whatever on him.
In combat, it's effectively a 2/3,
and you're never picking these early. It's always like they're always like on the wheel. It's like last pick. You get them like 3 picks from last pick or something, and it just ended up being good.
Yeah, and if you just print a playset of them with enough Torch the Towers and Flick of Coins and the 3 mana otter with a 1 red adventure to deal 1 damage to any target, there were just so many little blowouts that you could do with enough Skewer Slingers where they did get better in multiples.
Okay, so we already went over my ground card, which was just this card. I mean, it was very fun when we had it, and we won 7 wins with it multiple times. Like our best deck had one. And it was like 7-1.
It was disgusting. That deck was.
Did we 7-1 or 7-0? 7-1, right? Because we screwed.
Yeah, but that deck, when we didn't screw, our opponents didn't see.
It did screw. We actually would win some. We won
straight up would win games.
We beat that was our biggest win. We took down number 4 Mythic with a Goblin Bombardment deck. And
it was gross.
It was very skillful how we played this card and they lost.
Pretty much, that's what we did.
Was there a card that just used your grown card where every time you're just like, are you kidding me? I can't believe I'm losing this card again.
I am a little. Maybe sensitive is not the right word, but I get a little frustrated when there's like a real true A+ mythic uncommon in the format. And so the card that really bothered me the most was Imadane's Recruiter, because that's the card. It's an A+.
Oh, is it?
It's an A+. It's
uncommon.
Uncommon A+ is just too good. Like it's the card that broke the format open and made red-white the best deck in the format for the first month or so. But we would consistently open an Imadane's Recruiter in any color pair. Doesn't matter what. And we double splash Imadane's Recruiter, and it's correct.
It was too good.
Enough fixing. It was literally that good. And a format that's warped by an uncommon this much, it just makes me groan every time I take it and I play it. But it just frustrates me from a game design perspective.
Yeah, that was the part that was the worst. Is you have this cool idea for this deck, and then you have oh look, because I always look at the rare first. I'm like, oh cool, I open this rare, and I'm like, there's an Eminence Recruiter.
Yep.
I have to take that. You know, like, I can't pass this.
Unless you literally open Goblin Bombardment, you're supposed to take Immodane's Recruiter over almost any rare in the entire format, which is... That just kind of sucks.
Yeah, it seems like you could play either half of the card by itself, and it was good.
It was still good. As half a card.
Yeah, and that was... I can see that. Was there ever a card for you where your opponent cast it and you think, I have to beat this card or quit the game?
Bestial Bloodline.
There was a card, that card is up there, but there was actually a card that was even more. And I have to say, unfortunately, Nate, I will not be joining you for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan because I
Oh man, you
lost.
have to retire.
I lost a game to one brave gentleman who I cannot remember their name, but they cast a food fight against me,
a food fight.
and I lost the game. And it was because of the food fight.
Nice.
They had some combo with like a bonus sheet card that like printed them foods every turn somehow. I forget how. But then they used that to.
Was it in Alchemy with like the Overcooked card?
No, this was just straight up
Wilds and Eldrain.
Straight up WOE. It was like the first week of the format.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was shook. I think it was because they had two of them.
Yeah.
Man, this card is so bad. That's all I have to say about that. I can't.
Yeah.
There's not much else.
Yeah.
Let's see. We can make fun of our ratings. Is there any cards? Is there anything in particular you're curious about? Like we can just glance over because there was always like, okay, what were the cards in white you wanted to see? You wanted to see a cooped up, and I guess it's probably like this should be like a B- probably. So you're probably on the money with that. You wanted to see Hopeful Vigil.
Which we were on the money with that.
We're on the money with that for sure. I wonder if it was closer to a B or B-. I bet it was probably like, I don't know. Good name. Hopeful Vigil.
B,
Yeah, B.
But also 17 land rating scale is a little bit.
Yeah, it's like that's within the region. So unfortunately, we were wrong about that.
Oh man, that B- is really sad.
I know. Let's see. Do we give any cards in it? Stroke of Midnight.
Yeah, both
D
of
cards.
us. Yeah.
Stockpiling Celebrant. We gave a C- and a D-.
Yeah, that was bad.
What? Why was that card so good?
Well, you see, Hopeful Vigil was a B+ in our rating, and what we failed to realize is that in a format where you see a lot of Hopeful Vigils and Princess Takes Flights, we kind of missed the combo there.
The Princess Takes Flight. Yeah, darn it.
Yeah, that was not our brightest moment.
Oh no.
Like, yeah, that even my C+ is too low, but yeah, C+, D+, not our finest work.
I believe you had an award for the what was it, the most like middling card?
Let's see. Definition of middling award is.
I would like to present that award to one unassuming stage.
It is, as we like to say, rather unassuming.
It was rather unassuming, but like, you know what? You put it in your deck and okay, whatever. I'm just gonna do stage because I can't spell it. You put it in, and it was like you never thrilled about it, but you know what? Sometimes you needed a bear, or you needed a 3/3 to get you out of your screw.
You needed a hill giant with a sorcerer roll token to save you from danger.
It was the card that you just put in, and that was that.
It wasn't good. It was, well, the definition of middling.
It was rather unassuming.
Indeed.
All right,
let's see. I've got another award here. The Why is a Platoon of this actually kind of playable award? What would you give that award to, Kev?
Oh, we had a deck, I recall, with like 3 to 5 Ratcatcher trainees.
We did.
And it just turns out that the fact that it's the odd and even mana costs that are kind of low means that you can just fit an absurd amount of your curve of just this card. Like, it could be a 2-drop, it could be a 3-drop, it could be a 4-drop if you have 2 of them, or it could be a 5-drop if you have 2, or it could be a 6-drop. Yeah. You can just hit every spot of your curve.
That was hilarious as a playset, but I still think Ratcatcher Trainee is very playable as a 1-of.
Oh, it is. But
Why is a Platoon of this actually kind of playable award for this format goes to Scarecrow Guide. The amount of times we played an entire playset of them to splash our ridiculous mana as a solid D card was ridiculous. But they got better in multiples because your opponent would always want to remove them because they're like, the fixing. oh,
That was
let me
great.
get rid of their fixing, and then we play another one.
The amount of
another one.
No, the
and
amount of
another
times,
one.
like I can recall the amount. It was ridiculous. The amount of times people would, like, candy grapple, like, because here's how it would always go down. We'd be like, okay, what we're gonna do is we have this splash card that shouldn't be in our deck. Like, usually, for me, I felt like a disproportionate amount of the time it was probably hatching plans.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna wait till turn 4. We're gonna play our Scarecrow right then, and we're gonna play hatching plans because we want to make sure it gets on the board, and then we have some bargain effect in, like, Force the Tower or something.
Yeah.
You know, and then what they'd say is we'd cast it and be like, oh, like, shoot, like, they're relying on the fixing. Better remove that. They'd candy grapple it. We would use Torture to, like, bargain away our hatching plans that was splash, and then draw, like, 2 more of them.
And then just lay them down, and our opponents would be sad because, well, they didn't really remove our fixing. And with one of them, it was like, I need this to work. But with 4 of them, you can just trade them off
famously,
freely.
I lost a set to Josh off of a single rat out in his deck, hitting my Scarecrow guide when I was playing 5 color.
Yeah. No,
every single game.
Both of us lost to rat out every single game.
But if you just run 5 of them, that
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
if you have 5 of them. Oh no, he got a little bit more value with his 1 of rat out. Oh, well.
I like that. That's a good.
How about the next one?
Let's see. Are there any other cards? I'm trying to go through the colors and see if we can, like, see what we gave A's to in every color, and just see if we got any of them right for, like, common or common. Let's see. Is there anything embarrassing? Archive Dragon? Oh no.
Oh no.
We were led astray by our signpost on commons, and that doesn't excuse Archive Dragon being given an A. What was this thing like? Probably like a D.
C minus.
C minus
would be my guess.
Okay, let's see. Archive Dragon. C plus.
Okay, C plus.
We weren't as far off as possible. Why? Okay, this I think really gets into what was so interesting about this format is like.
Yeah.
You could play control, but your control deck did not want 6 drops in it.
Your control deck did not want anything that cost 5 or more mana except Into the Fate Court.
Yep.
And maybe 1 of Wyra's Attendants if you really needed it.
If you needed, like, a finisher, you put that in there. But anything that you couldn't do something on turn 2, turn 3, you just don't put it in. Let's Into the Fate Court.
Which was really the biggest lesson for us and why we rated these, like, high-end flying bombs in, like, your average limited format very highly. But this is not your average limited format in the sense of you're just gonna die before you can play your 6 mana card. You need, like, the 6 mana card in blue you wanted, weirdly, was Balluna's Gatekeeper, because it had a 2 mana adventure that actually tempoed.
Yeah, and a lot of times, it's like, you wouldn't think returning stuff to their hand is that good, except there's so much token stuff going on that it frequently killed, like, a 2/2 Vigilance, or if you were lucky, like a 3/3.
Yeah, your Hopeful Vigil token, oh, it's gone. One of your Imidane's Recruiter tokens, gone. Even rats, sometimes, in the right, like, environment.
Well, they had any creature with, like, a roll on, or just anything like that. I think one time we even got desperate, we bounced a Sleep Curse Fairy.
Yeah, you do what you gotta do, man.
Yeah, I know that card is a cheating card.
True.
So okay, well, how did our journey, like, to Mythic go? Like, if we're gonna talk a little bit about how there is a quote from Nate here I'm gonna bring up where he said to me early on in the format, "Kevin, this format has broken me. I do not understand it." And I was like, you know what, Nate? I don't understand it either, but that's going to make it that much more rewarding when we figure it out.
Yeah.
And we figured it out.
After, like, 3 or 4 paper drafts with our friends of going 1-2 or 1-3 with decks that I thought should be good or would be good, of whether that be green-black food, or I tried 5-color blue, like discount Louis Scott Vargas. Didn't work. Nothing was working. So for a while there, this format just broke me because we didn't understand how to construct a deck that would fit the format of. We were trying to mold the format to our principles instead of molding our draft principles to the format itself.
And what I think, there was, like, a phrase that you would always say that really was, like, the turning point for us.
Commit to the bit.
You gotta commit. You gotta find your line, and you have to go for it. Like, the example I saw was from the Ham TV watching him, is he had a deck with, like, a Johan in it. And it was blue-red spells. And I kept worrying, like, he kept not passing these cards that I thought were, like, that's a good card. Why is he not taking it? It's blue. Why isn't that good? That's a good red card. Why is he not taking it? It's a good minion. It's like it's strong, you know. It's like a good mid range beater. And then I looked at his final deck, and it had Johan. It had like a few things that like it had the bargain card that would get the spells back to your hand, and then it had 18 cards that were either adventure instant sorceries or just straight up instant sorceries. Yeah. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, this Johan, it's like if it doesn't hit a land, it's drawing him a creature. It's drawing him a card every single time.
Every single turn.
And then his frantic firebolts were like always dealing 8 damage. So it's 3 mana instant speed deal 8.
Yeah, which is just gross.
And that was the other half of it, which was you literally didn't want your curve to go above like 4 mana.
Yeah.
Or at least you wanted, you could okay with having things that were more than 4 mana, but you needed the like adventure creatures were kind of cheated because you had like the crappy card that was 2 mana that bounced their thing, but then you eventually got to draw the extra 6 drop.
But
play
so long as you had the extra utility at 2 mana, your 6 drop was playable then.
Yeah.
So the two sides here are lower your curve, or make sure you have pretty much everything in your deck has some sort of value that's for 3 or less mana, and then a pile of good cards is actively worse in this format, which we learned to be what I like to call a synergy format, than a synergistic deck with worse cards on the surface, but better cards when placed in combination with one another.
Yeah, and that's really, I think, the like takeaway that I'm gonna have in this format is like the power of a really synergy based deck. And I feel like we actually stumbled upon a deck that did that really early on, but then we didn't grasp why it was good. We actually had a fairies deck. Yeah. We just had a card that every card said fairy. Yeah. It ended up being really good, and it just kind of hit on those principles, and we didn't really realize like that's what was going on. But then eventually, once we did, as you can see, if you look at this thing, you look at this graph, like we really spent a lot of time. Our first 100
we struggled badly for a long time.
I remember like around here somewhere is when we really figured it, like we kind of like figured it out. Yeah. And we had this experimentation period, but then like if we go to right, I want to see if I can adjust this.
I don't think it will work, but
like when we got to this stage right
from
here,
game 160 to game 260, we stomped everyone.
I think we must have had like probably a 70% plus win rate. Yeah. Because we just popped off. We really, it just felt like every single draft, if we had at the worst case was we were going even, and like the best case we were just like trophying. Like we at one point I think had like 2 trophy decks in a row.
Yeah. We definitely had some piles that we were just like, okay, let's get 2-3 wins with this pile of a deck, but like 2 consecutive 7-2s with the blue-red tempo
Here you go.
deck.
So 7-2, 7-2, even, slightly below, slightly above. Trophy, 7-2. Slightly below, good, like above, you know. And this was like that was what our journey to Mythic was like down here is like 7. This is what it was like. Is once we kind of figured it out, like you really could. There was a lot of skill expression in this format. Yeah, you could really like.
Yeah, that's what amazed me so much about this format. It's for such a fast format, where you think you go back to 1. It's just about spending your mana every turn as much as possible was the key to 1, but there's still so much more skill expression and so much more depth to this format. And once we were able to really get underneath and understand that depth, we were able to really make a fast run at Mythic as a result.
And it was very rewarding to really completely turn the corner. Oh, I see. So what's going on here is these are some of my, these are 1 drafts, I think. Yeah, these are 1 drafts.
I see. You went back to 1.
I was playing. That's what's going on. Okay, so these aren't. So, like, what is our last...
our last WOE deck is the second 7-2.
Okay, so these are all 1 draft. So this is how... Okay, so this actually gives a better picture. This is how we ended our format. 7-0-2, 7-4-4, 7-7, 3-5-2, 4-7-7. Yeah. Like, we figured out how this thing works.
We figured it out.
And as you see... We had our buddy here, who actually ended up being a little worse because actually blue-white ended up being like a good counter to aggro, and that's like Boros, and then black-red actually went down a little bit because people started kind of picking up on it. And then green-black became the natural predator of the blue and the white, but then they kind of so it was like.
But green-black was never open because you wanted like 10 or 15.
So it's like we were playing red-black aggro, or we're playing a deck with blue and white mana. Yeah, those were our 2 decks.
And then our 2 7-0s at the bottom were just... I think one of them was our Goblin Bombard.
Oh, this is a 7-0.
Yeah. We
Let's
7-0'd
take a
black
look at this
red.
bad boy. So this is like a.
Yeah, let's
So
see
this
what's
is how
going
you
on
want to build
here.
an aggro deck. We had a two-headed hunter, an edgewall, two edgewall to cut in, storm
This
piper.
was pre like blue-white control meta as well, we should say. Yeah, this deck stomped people.
What was it? Oh, this is in
Oh, this is our alchemy deck.
Yes, in a Tangle Colony. That's what
Because
this is.
everyone was trolling in alchemy, and we just said,
Okay,
you know
okay.
what, your 5-mana bombs, no.
Yeah, because we just
cares?
started losing all this random nonsense, and we were like, you know what? Let's just kill some people.
Yeah,
And that was definitely an effective strategy during this
it
one.
worked very well for us.
Let's see. I want to see if we can find like a really.
I think the 7-0 red-white deck here was our Goblin Bombardment deck.
Was this one?
Yeah, this was the Goblin Bombardment deck. This I think may have been the best deck we had in this format. Or it's certainly up there.
Doesn't look like much, does it?
No, it doesn't. But we had a Goblin Bombardment and a Song of Totentons.
Yeah, those cards were gross.
And those cards were
This
gross.
thing kind of looks like a pile. Not gonna lie, but apparently
But
it got
that's what that's what WOE was. Like the first couple times we trophied, we're like, this looks like a pile. And
there. But
then
it was
we
just an
go
early game.
trophy.
It was just an early game pile.
Yeah.
My favorite deck of the format would have to be one of these blue-white decks that we had.
I think my favorite deck of the format actually was our blue-red tempo deck. But
Oh,
that's
this one?
because it was so
Just this is
far
how blue.
removed from every other blue-red deck in the format.
This is what would happen. Like, we got past like 2 Sleep Curse Fairies and a Talion's Messenger.
Which is just ridiculous. And so this deck, instead of being like, it wasn't really a full control defensive blue-red deck, so we didn't have quite enough removal for that, but it wasn't an aggro deck either. We were playing basically a playset of Skewer Slingers in this deck, but this was a value deck. This just has a bunch of 3/3 flyers that are gonna slowly kill you.
I want to show this one on MTG Arena just so we can really I think it is a nice way to kind of end off our show, is like really talk through like this deck, and it really kind of supports, I think, everything we're trying to say.
Yeah.
About like how this format was, what we learned, like our hot takes, which I guess for a soapbox card, Skewer Slinger might have also been my soapbox card. I was always on the pulpit preaching espousing the values of this.
Yes,
of this,
you
this
were
deck.
preaching the teachings of Skewer Slinger, definitely.
I know the
Monstrous Rage,
so
which
let's get the lands out of here. We
get
know
the
what
lands
those.
out of here. Let's just sort into our creatures, our value pile, and our removal pile. Creatures. Value percent. Stopgap Coven, let's see. Into the fake order.
And we're just gonna pile these up like that.
Yep.
And so what this is exactly what we were talking about is when you have a blue-red spells deck, that's kind of the theme. This was kind of like a tempo-y blue-red spells, but it's a blue-red spells deck.
Yes.
You want creatures? You basically want things to have spells on them. So this has a spell on it. This is Johan. This thing draws you a card.
Most turns.
Most turns if you play an instant sorcery on top of your deck. So this middling creature has an adventure, so we can draw it. This thing has an adventure, so we can draw it. This card is just a bomb. It's we kill people along with this card. It's
So
really good.
good. Absolutely.
Fine card Daredevil has an adventure, you can draw it. Godric, bomb.
A-tier card from 17 lands. Just insane.
You can draw it. And you can draw it. Skewer Slinger. This is our soapbox. This is my soapbox card anyway. I love this guy. Is an absolute house in the defensive blue-red decks. And why were we so defensive? Well, it's like because we could just win with Godric, we win with these guys, or we just win with these 2 Sleep Curse Fairies, which we would get past.
Or
into
Talion's Messenger, or Obira's Attendants. If that's how this deck killed people, it wasn't like I'm gonna kill you with whatever's left on the board, like a blue-white control style deck, and it wasn't I'm just gonna overwhelm you, go wide or go tall like an aggro deck would. But that made Skewer Slinger perfect. It wasn't too controlly, but it was controlling enough to where we wanted Skewer Slingers for the defensiveness and for the blowouts with Frenzy and Torch the Tower and Flick a Coin and just so many little tiny things.
So that raises an interesting question, though, of twofold. Why are Ginger Brute and Emberth Veteran in this deck?
Well, you see, the truth of it is this is an aggressive format. And if you're not on the board early, then in a lot of matchups, you're just dead. And in an aggro-heavy meta, or when you're playing against a Mega Control player who doesn't want to do anything until turn 4, this deck wants to kill you before you can do that. With a Godric and a 4/2 Italian's Messenger, like, we want to output value on each and every turn, so we just have more mana's worth of stuff on the board than our opponent in a deck like this. That's how this deck wins games.
And that's what's so crazy. That was what's so interesting about this format is like this is like it's a tempo deck, but it's kind of like it's I would consider this to be a slower deck.
It is
in the format, but it's like you look at the average mana cost. It's like you're at 2.8.
Yeah. Our average mana cost is literally like our average mana cost in a
it's like, and if we sort this by cards that you can, based on like interaction, like how like when you can play your spells, it's like, okay, I'm gonna put this in the 1-drop pile.
That's a 1-drop.
This is a 4-drop, so I guess I can name the fake its own pile. You can cast for 2. This can cast for 3. This can cast for 1. Like this is what we like learned about this. This is a like middle to slow deck. Looks like it has 2 things that cost 4. And 1 thing that costs 5. And everything else is cheaper.
Everything else.
Or can be cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, sometimes you draw the 6/5s. Sometimes, you don't have time. But it's like, this was like, and it's like Ginger Brew had all these like cute little combos. Like you can bargain it. You can block with it. You can block and sack it and gain life. You can put a young hero roll on it. And
that's half the reason why it's in the deck.
Or like Ember's Veteran is just a good blocker. You can just... It's a 2/1 for 1, and that usually trades with most 2-drops in the format.
And it also can put a young hero roll on your Ginger Brute.
Or
so
your
start getting into more and more damage.
Or your Godric. Or your Minecart. It's like everything. Yeah. And it's so cool because like Flick Coin works super good with Skewer Slinger, or if you have any like little interaction, like a Buyer's Attendance is always just nasty on blocks. It's like the one combat trick I'm okay with. Like, playing on defensively.
We're running, Obira's Attendance is the one defensive combat trick. We're running one of what for me is the best like combat trick in the format, which is Monstrous Rage, just to kill people.
And it's like if you think about, okay, now what's the bombs of the deck? It's like these 2 are bombs, this is a bomb, this is a bomb,
Godric,
this is a bomb, and
Italian's
then
Messenger.
Where's that? Italian's Messenger.
At 3.
Italian's Messenger, and then probably like Buyer's Attendance.
Yeah.
And maybe like you can put the looters over here. It's like these are your bombs, and it's like, okay, your bombs cost 1, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6. But it's like, okay, so these 3 are slow, and you obviously would rather have these, but like these things are also cheap.
Like into the Fake Court, you want to be playing as like, ideally in the perfect world, your Buyer's Attendance and Balloonist Gatekeeper might be replaced with something cheaper. But Balloonist is playable because of the adventure on the other side, and Obira's...
you're playing it for the adventure, and then sometimes you get a big idiot.
And Obira's is in here for an extra finisher.
Yeah,
that's defensive combat trick.
You play the combat trick on defense, and then you use the flyer to like... And the amount of times... And I think there's one more thing I would want to touch on before we close it out. This format was hard.
This format, we said it so many times, from the start of format to the end of the format, whenever we punted... What we would say to each other is, this format is hard.
The amount of times, like, I either won by 1 life, or I lost by 1 life because I, put this thing on the wrong, I didn't venture this in the right place, or I was supposed to just play down the creature, or, I don't know, you didn't have enough colors. It was weird because you wanted this deck with 16 lands, but usually, we would run a lot of card decks with 17 lands because you just wanted to keep hitting your land drops, and it was so much worse if you screwed than if you flooded. You could usually kind of dig your way out of it.
Weirdly, this was a 17 land format despite how cheap all of the cards in these decks were, which is really surprising, but it ended up being what you needed to do. You just needed to curve out so badly that you actively wanted extra lands and had to kind of just take the flood as it came.
Yeah, and that's why you run the 2 into the Fake Courts, and you can always complain, and but it's what you needed to do to survive. And so for me, that was this was where we got to in 1 is or in WOE, where this is and it's really cool.
And this deck trophying for me, and this was the deck we made Mythic with as well, was just such an exercise in really showing how far we had come in this format, and it was really beautiful for me to be able to go to Mythic with a deck like this. Yeah, we got past some rares, but
like we didn't open these rares. We got past all of these.
No,
but people just didn't think the color was good, and we disagreed.
But the way that we applied the lessons that we learned in this format to be able to succeed in such a difficult format, despite our many misplays throughout the format, was really rewarding and really indicative of just how far we had come. And that's, like, for me, was the best part of this format, was just how far we've come, and to be able to do it together was awesome.
No, that was really special, and that the power of friendship is really what won through it.
Yeah. We are not one Mythic player each, we are half a Mythic player each, but together we did it.
Okay, so then that brings us to our final questions of the night. Is let's talk about just the big picture. How is this format like for you, bro?
I'm a grindy kind of format player. I like a little bit of more of a slower format. So this format was definitely on the faster side of medium, but it wasn't one. It like what I liked is that it wasn't one in levels of fast.
Because I played one after this, and I was like, gosh, it's amazing how the both formats were fast formats, but one is so bad.
Yeah.
By comparison.
It's just such a broken format. And yeah, this format has its broken elements, but at least the broken elements of this format aren't 2.5 colors are unplayable. Of even green, as little as we play green in this format, playable in the right
Some
deck.
people figured out how to play that. We didn't really figure it out unless we opened Gruff Triplets, and then we knew.
Or had 15 food sources in their deck.
Yeah.
That was the only way we could get it to work.
Yeah. For me, this, in terms of like if I had to give it a rating, which I don't know, like there's a lot of nuance, I would give this probably like a BB plus.
Yeah.
Like there were definitely some issues. I think the format was a little too fast. I think some of the themes were like the tap deck.
The blue-white tap deck, like who in the nine hells thought that was a good idea, Kev? Seriously.
It's like they didn't learn from the Scry and Loader.
No.
And I feel like they tried something similar in one, right? Like artifact tap thing.
Yeah.
And it didn't work either.
And we, memed around with that deck a little bit once we got to Mythic.
We figured out how to make the tap theme work.
We did.
It was called Hilda and Hilda's Crown, which are two cards are just broken by themselves.
Just dumb by themselves and are a rare and a mythic respectively. So yeah, just not
but
good.
in terms of like how I'm going to look back on this format, right now I've only been playing since DMU, but this is an A+ for me. This is by far and away my favorite format.
Yeah.
I have so many fond memories of hitting Mythic, but like figuring out with you, like I feel like I grew so much as a Magic player, and this format really, because it was difficult and it was fast, but it was deep.
Yeah.
I learned so much. And so for that, I'm always going to think fondly of WOE.
I will always have an inherent bias towards thinking more positively about this format just because of how much we learned and how far we've come within the format itself. As far as from a set design perspective, it's not the most me format, like it doesn't resonate the most with me, but you're the aggro player, not me. I'm the grindy player, so that makes sense. But even still, like with set design and everything, I'd say it's roughly a B. Like I adore DMU. I just have such positive memories of Dominaria.
DMU is an all-timer.
It's just an incredible format for me. But this format isn't too far off. And for a format like as fast as this to be not too far off and to be able to hit Mythic in a difficult set and to do it together, it means a lot to me to go from Kevin, this format has broken me, I don't understand it at all, to okay, we got it.
Yeah,
and we
proved it.
Yeah,
like it was literally like I remember saying like oh, that's interesting. It did work? Question mark.
I don't know.
I'm gonna hit this button because I don't know what's going on.
Oh, it might just be the specific deck's run.
Okay. Alright, thank you.
Yep.
Who knows how long I would have been dirtling with that? Probably a long time because I do love dirtling. I was right about I think here because this is when we figured it out. And then right here, I remember I went to Nate. I was like, okay, Nate, I think we figured this out. It's time to make a run at Mythic, and then it should.
And once we were ready, and we said to one another, okay, it's time to win now.
Yeah,
we did.
and that was in the span of like a week or two.
A week or two, yeah.
And that to me was really like that was very rewarding because I just felt like at the end I just felt very competent. I knew what was going on and I understood.
And we were vindicated in that by hitting Mythic so quickly. We just finally figured it out. And once we finally figured it out, we were rewarded with a really fun and rewarding Mythic journey.
Is there anything you want to say to close out the show? Is there any last thoughts, parting words, advice, takeaways? LCI is on the horizon. We are waking up. We are getting up tomorrow at Lord knows what time after our nap and skiing to do the set review of that. But do you have any takeaways?
My biggest takeaway from this set is from listening to a lot of pros and people that I've been watching for over a decade at this point. The biggest thing that I saw of how we were able to grow so quickly in this format was allowing our drafting principles to be changed to match the format and being flexible. And the best players that I saw, I think Ethan, what's his name?
Ethan Sachs.
Yeah, Ethan Sachs, one of the best like WOE limited players I've seen. The reason why I think players like him are so good in a format like this is because they are flexible based upon what they're given effectively. They are allowing cards to change their principles and the decks to change their draft principles and play principles instead of making the set conform to a pre-existing set of principles.
Yeah, I think that's like really what I think. Sure, like I learned about committing to the bit. I learned about like building synergy decks and like okay, you can have this like synergy control. These are all mechanics, but that's like really I think the thing I learned is like I saw a lot of like what I'd call like the old heads, like you know, your Hall of Famers, your multi-time Worlds players, these amazing players hating this format and just not getting it and doing poorly and like complaining constantly about what was going on.
And that was us for the first half.
And that's what we were doing too. And then slowly though you started watching like other people like they just started doing things different and it was really working. And I think the epitome of that for me at least was blue. People just thought the card was the color was unplayable.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
No.
And we proved it. And that is like for me a huge takeaway is like okay, like these guys are like legends
for a reason.
They're
amazing.
But that doesn't mean they're always right. And sometimes like if you find something that's really working, you have to maintain like some flexibility and stay open-minded and really do your due diligence to get out of the echo chamber and to really kind of do some to like really find what's going on. And that was that was really cool for me.
And to see just the way we were drafting and playing evolve from that kind of old head mentality into then committing to the bit and finding out what was going to work for us in this format, because blue-white control or blue-red or blue-black, like blue was the answer, but blue's not going to be the answer in every format.
Exactly. I hope it isn't, because that would take the fun of it for me was figuring it out.
Yeah.
And like okay, like that made me feel like very vindicated and cool, but
you know,
but maintaining that open mind and that fresh sense of perspective is really valuable.
It
being
also
humble.
Yeah, it was a lesson to me in just how amazing these like older heads are to be able to have well higher win rates than us with the same standard principles that they take to every format. Shows you how amazing limited players they are.
Just jam whatever they want to be good into every single
Yeah. So it shows you how amazing they are, but it also shows you like if they wanted to, they could even go so much further, as can everyone. It doesn't matter, like, us is, we became competent in this format, but we are by no means Hall of Famers.
That's the thing, is it's like, once we get to the format, we're babies again.
Exactly.
and that's both the fun, and it's also, like, it's something, it's a source of humility. Yeah. So so with that, I think it's a good place to leave off the show. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. If any of you actually did make it to the end, leave a comment or honestly just tell me, because I will be very impressed and grateful. And this was the Epitome of Salt signing off.
Yeah, thanks all for listening.